Joined tonight by veteran political expert and visiting UCLA professor Bill Schneider. Bill, thanks for being here. I want to talk to you more about the week that Trump has had. These seem to be some of the more damaging things he has said throughout this entire campaign. But so far, he's been able to escape much injury from many of the things he said in the past.
No more. The polls show that he is declining. Americans are losing confidence in him. He has a hard core of support out there. It's maybe as much as 40% of the voters. But right now, increasing numbers of Republicans are concluding he just can't win.
And we're looking at the swing state numbers, too, lately, where Hillary is starting to pull ahead, way ahead, some by double digits, where we're seeing the path that Trump may have had before from going from narrow to almost non-existent if he doesn't get this blue wall of states that historically give their electoral votes to Democrats.
Like Connecticut, where he was today. I mean, it's very unlikely he'll win Connecticut. What he's doing is very disturbing to a lot of people, experts and voters. He's giving preemptive explanations for why he's going to lose. He's saying it's going to be cheating. It's a rigged election, which means that if he does lose, if it's at all close, his supporters will go out and say it was all rigged. There could be trouble. They could protest even as far as the inauguration. There could be a lot of trouble.
Okay, what about the tax return issue right now? Donald Trump's still saying he will not release his returns, but his running mate, Mike Pence, said he'll release his. What's the strategy with that? You would think those two would be on the same page with this issue.
There is no strategy. It doesn't make any sense, but Trump keeps his own counsel. The political imperative is that he's got to release his tax return, and I imagine he will eventually, because even tax returns under audit can be released. This is a totally untenable campaign. It's not being run by professionals, and it's a very disturbing campaign to professionals in the Republican Party.
And it certainly doesn't look good when you see that Hillary Clinton is returning or is releasing her 2015 tax returns. In fact, she did it yesterday. It shows that the Clintons paid a $3.6 million tax bill on $10.5 million of income. That's roughly a 34% tax rate. But nonetheless, she has released her tax returns, and we have yet to see any evidence that Trump is going to do the same.
And the strategy is to put the pressure on Trump. He's doing something else which is very bad. He's injecting poison into the political bloodstream. When he accused Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama of being founders of ISIS, then he said, oh, that was just sarcastic. Well, maybe it wasn't sarcastic. That's a way of getting a story out there which isn't true and getting it into the political bloodstream. And a lot of people believe things like that.
Absolutely. There will be people, like you said, that will stick with him to the very, very end. These are the same people who have also forgiven a lot of the things he said along this campaign. There's a new Quinnipiac University poll that shows Clinton with a 10-point lead over Trump in Pennsylvania. We talked about that earlier. The other polls are showing that she was doing quite well. So do you see this path continuing for her? I know we're seeing a lack of confidence starting to show from Republicans, but when we get down to the polls, how much of a win do you think Hillary Clinton is going to see here?
Well, at the moment, if all other things being equal, which they never are, she's going to win. The margin may be a lot closer than people expect because, look, she would be the third Democrat elected in a row after 2 terms of Obama. She herself is personally not very popular. A lot of people don't want to vote for her. I think she will win simply because Trump is seen as unqualified temperamentally and by background. But if she wins, it won't be an enthusiastic win, I don't think, and it won't carry much of a mandate.
All right. Bill Schneider, Trump, you know, we did talk about the fact that he likes to talk about how the system is rigged. He had talked about this earlier, even before the cheating, the preemptive excuse of why he is going to lose, or well, you say he might be going to lose this election. But he also talked about the electoral system and the way votes are cast in this country and how we do things and how we elect presidents here. Do you think that's also going to be included in his entire argument for why, if he does not win?
Everything will be included in why he didn't win. He'll say the Electoral College is biased, that people were cheating, that the wrong people voted, that there was electoral fraud. Any excuse will do. He'll give justifications for saying the election was rigged, and his supporters are likely to believe him and maybe make trouble.
All right, Bill Schneider, thank you so much. We always appreciate your insight, and it is going to be a very interesting and bumpy next few months to the election.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll see you again, I'm sure.